Okay, prior to starting the recording, we had a motion to approve the September 14th minutes by Mandy, seconded by Bill, all in favor who are here, and that is a quorum was everybody, so we have that affirmed. On 9/26, we have very brief, 25th, we had very brief minutes, and in order to approve those, I'm going to ask Jeannie to just read the minutes and we will try to approve those as well. So Jeannie.
Right. So called to order at 7:28 p.m. Open discussion. There was open meeting law. Dan Wiley alerted the board that we needed to adhere to open meeting laws and should restrict what is being shared through email communications. The board agreed to submit all open subjects and follow-up information to the board shared drive under review file. Secretary will record the actual minutes of the board meetings and send minutes as a drafted document. It will be downloaded to the review folder at the next board meeting as can be addressed. The motion was made to enter into executive session. Pam Youngs made the motion and Bill McDonald second. A motion was made to exit the executive session at 8:41, Dan Wiley motion, Mandy Mason second. The motion was made that adhere to the contractual 90-day notice of October 7th, 23 with WCP Consulting Community Plan Agreement dated November 23rd, 2022. Is the board's intent to not renew the current terms of WCP. It was also determined that the office of the board would schedule a Zoom meeting with Scott Berto, WCP consultant, community planner, to inform him that it is the board's intent not to renew the current terms of the WCP agreement and to solicit Scott's input of what he would identify would be outstanding grant activities requirements would be required in 2024. Motion to adjourn at 8:47. Mandy motioned and Joe seconded that motion.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion.
Thank you, Bill. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mandy. All in favor? Aye. Okay, next on the agenda is Scott sent us his outstanding, the projects report. It was in his project update file. Does anyone have any questions for Scott based on your review? I have 3.
Okay.
I didn't want you to feel bad, Scott. So on the final Edgewater design approval, it said on October that was due for final approval by the board. How is the Club Street Committee involved in that final approval?
That's just the final approval of their contract. It's not any design.
Oh, okay, that
They
was,
haven't even started final design yet, so we've been reviewing a proposal to do final design and bid documents. They sent us the proposal. I questioned that there was a couple things not in it. I reached back out to Danny and Ben and just said, hey, purpose of this grants to get the construction, you're not including design and documentation for bidding in your proposal. So they sent back another proposal with those items in it. Reviewed it with Ben and Danny, and then I think Dan's gonna recommend it. I don't know if he did it last Thursday or not, but
Yeah, I don't think we'll have any trouble with it.
is this the $11,800 proposal, or this is an additional proposal?
$120,000 proposal to do like actual design construction documents, the core sampling, wave sampling.
Is the town planning on getting that from their own funds, Dan?
That's out of their grant. That's out of their LWRP grant.
Okay,
So it's part of the.
so it's nothing that they're coming to us for, from
No,
a
it's not gonna
financial
come to you for
perspective?
it all. Nope. So we're going to the state and asking for a budget amendment to take it out of the $165,000 budget they got.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that clarification. Second question on East End Park Ready. Will all the pay apps be completed by year end?
And part for both of them, for Ready and LWRP, they both should be completed by the end of November.
Okay.
Yep.
And any update, on the LWRP being approved from New York State?
That was Irene last week, and she believed it was gonna be posted this week or next for a 60-day review.
She didn't
So-
say if they had any comments or anything, did she?
She said it, as far as she knew, they approved it as it was, and we'll post it for 60-day review. They would email us when it was posted publicly.
Okay, all right, so thank you. That was all my questions. Bill?
I just had one more out of curiosity. So for the most part, the East End Park is done and it looks fabulous. As word gets out and more boats and stuff start coming in, is there any plan that if it's always jam packed and people have to, you know, all the parking spots are done and they have to go to Market Street or whatever, to take out that grass in between the new East End Park and the existing parking lot that kind of extends down to the village? So that would just be extra parking.
No, okay. The plan is they bought the building next door to Mandy, and to tear that down and create a parking lot across the street.
Right across the street.
Where at the building property, that old brick garage, concrete garage.
Oh, okay. The red building. Okay.
The village has already purchased that.
Okay.
And the house.
And the house that goes with it. And then that lot connects to the town lot in the back. So the intent would be to make them pull into the town lot side road and out front.
Okay. So they would just cross the street.
They would just drop off their boat, across the street, and pull on.
But there's no timeline for that other side of the road, right? I mean,
We
on
submitted-
Mandy's side of the road?
We submitted a grant application that we hope to be awarded in January, January timeframe when they announce it around the grant, so that would put design in spring, summer, hopefully bid, construction next fall. That would be open for 25.
Yeah. So I think we're going to have it very quickly. It's full. So, okay, thanks.
All right, great. Hi, Pam.
Hi, sorry about that.
No problem. All right, so we were just going through, did you have any questions on Scott's report that he provided us? No, okay. And we approved the September 24th and, I'm sorry. Yeah, September 14th and 9:25 minutes. Yeah,
Perfect.
there we go, got it out.
What was it that people were excited about? The
Oh.
last statement.
No, I was just asking questions about the parking at the East End Park, which is fabulous. And then since it's already full, kind of what the plan for parking, and then he was filling me in kind of on the other side.
Great.
And the width, which is great.
Yeah, it is good.
All right, next on the agenda is, based on the meeting that the officers had with Scott, we asked that he put together a presentation to give us his recommendations on what his work should be in 2024. So Scott, I'll turn it over to you.
One other quick update on the projects. East End Park ribbon cutting, state officials will be here Friday the 20th at 11.
Did they confirm?
They haven't confirmed, but Jerry said that's the plan,
Okay.
so, if I don't hear anything, I was with Jerry all afternoon, and he said go with that for now, so. If that changes, I'll email everybody, but. People from the Department of State, possibly Secretary of State will be up on the 20th.
Are they wanting a crowd? Are they?
Yeah, they would like the crowd. Yep.
Did they talk to the school at all?
That I do not know.
Scott, see if you can share now. I think I gave everybody the ability to share.
So, the ribbon cutting. How do you get a bunch of people out there? Who spearheads that? And that's the kind of thing that we're talking about, letting people know what's going on.
I think our website, chamber website. Sign in front of the town.
20th. We're only.
That's a
That's
week,
next week.
a week
That's
from
next
Friday.
Friday. Shoot, we can't get any announcements in the paper, right? Too late.
Next Friday. 11.
Yeah, you could get it TI done. It's on Wednesday.
Yeah, if we wasn't in by Monday.
Yeah, but maybe we can.
That's, yeah, You definitely.
Do you know if the Warner Village is planning on giving it to TI Sun?
I don't know that. I don't know. Normally the ribbon cuttings, I mean, you've helped before in that, but, there's sort of a standard list that it went to.
Usually the state
The
will
state, yeah.
The stable?
put out a press release that they're doing it. I offered to email all the elected officials and they said, no, we do that. And I said, okay. Sure.
The other thing you might want to consider is the chamber does send out that weekly email blast, and they have quite a large following for that. So that might be a good,
I'll see if I can get the, press release that the
Yeah,
state
if
has
they
and
do.
just forward it to the Sun if possible.
Okay, you want to do that? Pam?
But I also think Danny's idea of the school, like, once you know it's official, the school might be a long walk for some of the little, but even like the third, fourth and fifth, it'd be neat for them to go and see elected officials and all that.
Right. The older, yeah.
And then the village town signs, who kind of controls those?
I can take care of that. If I get the details, if it's
Yeah.
confirmed, Michelle and Tina, they just punch in what they want. Yep.
And if it's confirmed, we can share, people like we can share on Facebook, you know? If we
Yeah,
know
Mary from the
businesses.
village can put it out on Facebook too.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
And
just
Cape
confirm
Visitor
and like, make sure we're all updated.
all right, Scott, over to you. Thank you.
So I did put together a little presentation after a meeting with the officers. They asked me to give a little update presentation. So there are some new members, so I just wanted to do a brief history, go through that kind of, go through that. So I started with the town and village of March of 2017. At that time, I was directly contracted with the town and village. The LDC was not a very strong LDC. At one point, they had got to the point where they were gonna become a 501c3, and that's when the state started auditing all the 501c3s and kind of shutting them down, no activity. So they kind of broke up and backed off a little bit. When I started in 17, there was probably 4 of you that were meeting every 3 or 4 months, just trying to keep it together. One of the parts of my contract was to organize those into monthly meetings to help seek out new members and get a full board, and then to move that forward. So that's what we started doing. We started having monthly meetings. The town and the village went out and found people to be involved and to attend those meetings and wanted to be involved. And then over the 5 years, we slowly moved that organization to the 501c3 you are today.
Almost.
We did bring in, I recommended we bring in MRV group to bring the legal side, and they coordinated a few meetings to get the bylaws in place, and that's how we got to where we are today. My first contracts were, actually, the first contract wasn't incentive based. The first contract was just an annual contract like I have with you now, with a set number of hours. It included office hours at the time. Chamber was actually in the office that you guys are in now, so I was working out of there. I told the town and the village up front initially that the first year and a half, we weren't gonna receive any grant money. They hadn't submitted grants in a number of years. We weren't in front of the state, but I said it is a process and a cycle. After we submit a few grants and get turned down, we will start to get in the loop and start receiving grants. After the first 2 years of the contract, the town came back to me and said, hey, we don't think you're trying hard enough. We're gonna give you an incentive-based contract. So I reduced my monthly payment and we had an incentive based on the dollar amounts of the grants that I received. And at that time, we also reduced the number of hours a week, and we took out the office hours because I was literally sitting up here 8 hours a week by myself and not seeing anybody. And they were advertising office hours, and I was still just sitting there by myself for 8 hours a week. Just as I had indicated, we received 3 grants right in a row. We received the LWRP for Club Street, the LWRP for Easton Park, and then the Pivots Point grant. The incentive base was a little unexpected then at that point for the town and the village, so they said, hey, and I recommended it too. I said, hey, can we go back to just an annual contract with a set dollar amount? They couldn't budget. It was hard for them to budget with the payments on the incentive base. And so we moved back to just the annual contract. In addition to grant work, they also asked me to do some planning. I took the comprehensive plan, which had not been updated since 2017, or 2012, actually, I'm sorry. And I went through it and we updated all the details. We had a couple public meetings and updated the goals and the initiatives. We updated the swap in it. And then we gave it to each town and village for their highway departments to update their 5-year plans in it. And we're at that. So we did go through that and update that. And then recently with the LWRP, with the DDR, the firm that was hired to do it, they kind of dropped the ball. And January, the town and village said, can you take this and get it over the finish line for us? So that's a little brief history of where we are today. Current projects, Club Street, LWRP. For the town, we hope to have an end date of 12/24. That's pushing it. That's gonna be close depending on construction. It might spill over into 25. Tippets Point Shoreline, they did get approval. They did get approval from Parks and Rec just this week to go out to bid for the fence. Mike Altieri and BCA have to make some changes to the bid document. The color and the lighting on top of the fence need to be changed or something. They hope to be out to bid in the next week or two. Marty would like to get a firm maybe to do the work in November, December, which would then push the reimbursement paperwork and the closeouts into 24. Closeout reports into the spring of 24. They do not get a firm that can complete the work in November, December, that would put the construction into March, April, and then push that closeout into summer of 24.
So does this, when they put these fences up, do they contract out or do they have
No,
their?
you're bidding and contracting it out. You're gonna pay them.
No, but I'm saying when the state does, I mean, it's a similar fence. Does their crews put it up or do they bid it out?
No, you're going to bid it out.
I'm not talking that one. I'm talking other areas, other state parks.
Yes,
They have the black fences. Do they bid it out or do their crews put it in?
I think their crews put it in, and what you put in there is the exact same fence they use at their other state
Well,
parks.
that's why I'm wondering if it would make sense to push back and say, no, you guys are gonna take this over. Why doesn't your crew come in and do it?
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
That's
No,
something
that was my question.
Marty, maybe.
Yeah,
So, the village's East End Park LWRP is scheduled to be done. I mean, the work's basically done. They just have some punch items left to do. And then finish up the paperwork. We will hopefully have that paperwork closed out by the end of this year. And the town and village joint LWRP plan. Susan goes out to 60-day review. We've submitted all the paperwork for that, completed the paperwork and turned it over to EDR. Because it had to be done online through the portal that they had access to, and I believe they completed all the paperwork. Online. So
What's
once-
EDR?
EDR is Environmental Research and Development firm out of Syracuse that the town contracted with
Okay.
6 or 7 years ago. And they kind of never finished the project.
yeah, it was supposed to.
So those are the current projects that are being run through the LDC. Just, briefly, some of the grants, Club Street grant, or project cost, $1.2 million, $843,000 grant. Includes new docks, public access, the committee was formed, public meetings. Now we're moving to final design and construction, and we've applied for additional grant opportunities. The big grant was just submitted to the state, went on to the federal government, and the New York Forward application was submitted to the committee. Marty and I have an interview with the selection members of the committee and the state on Monday to go over the budget in detail. They wanted a more detailed budget than what they asked for originally. So we're gonna go over the plan and the budget with that committee on Monday.
For which one?
For the towns.
Not the big one, the other one.
For the New York.
For big, for,
No,
oh, for
Forward.
okay.
So we have an interview with with MJ Engineering and state officials on Monday, maybe there yet, who's on email. So they want us to just explain the phases of the project and the budget. East End Park included, $750,000 grant. The future phases of that include the parking on the opposite of the road lot there. Apply for another grant. And then to its point, the shoreline stabilization grant, $400,000 grant, $800,000 project. All of the local share has been through work. The town did all the work themselves. The materials are covered, local shares through time, equipment time, labor time to cover the local share. We did work on the federal surplus property transfer. And that kind of stalled out when we went to the state and asked them to take it over. So that's where that is at now. And then opportunities for 23 and 24. We've submitted the town's request for the New York Forward funding. We hope to hear in the next month or two. If that's awarded, then somebody's gonna have to work with MJ Engineering to administer that, to go through design with Edgewater. Bid that project out, complete the paperwork. The Club Street LWRP committee, design, bidding, construction and reporting, that's currently inactive.
Scott,
Yeah.
on these, because now we're moving into what we need to think about for next year.
Yep.
So for example, on the New York Forward funding, if the project, that you help the town write gets approved as part of the 4.5 million, what would be your involvement?
So if the project is funded, then somebody, I'm assuming the town would use my involvement, would have to oversee the design, the bidding, the construction documents, the awarding of the contract, the paperwork for payments, approving the payments, the reimbursements to New York Forward, because it's a reimbursable grant, it's not money up front. So my time on that project would be to minister that grant opportunity.
Dan, do you know if this is one that the town would assume that our group pick up?
I don't think they can they? I mean, you can't transfer, if you apply as a municipality.
No, she's saying you think the town's gonna ask me to, this board to administer that grant for them. Or are you gonna pay
So
for
it's, where I'm trying to get to with my questions is sometimes the town uses contractors to do what Scott just described, and they pay them, like a Tim White or a Matt Cooper. And then this New York Forward is kind of funky that you've got the whole state it's not the MRB group, whatever those guys, MJ, I knew it was an M, engineering that does some work. So I'm trying to figure out, like, if Scott's making a proposal to us on how many hours, do we need to worry about the hours Scott would spend on that? Or is that something that the town would do, or is it something the New York State contracted MG engineering would do? I think it's, yeah, I mean, that's my question. I think we need to really understand that.
MJ
Right.
Engineering's not going to do it for the town.
And Edgewater is not going to
And
administer.
Edgewater's not gonna administer.
I know
it.
that.
The time asked, the town asked me to write the grant through the LDC and use my time for the LDC, so I would say that if it's the village and town's intent for any grant they receive, to use this board to administer it.
So
That's my
not what they-
conversation with Jerry
I
Martin.
know. Yeah,
That's
so,
not what they told us a couple of weeks ago. or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That's what the hard part, because how do we do a budget with not knowing
Well-
what's gonna get thrown in extra?
mhm.
My
Because this
convers-
isn't ours technically.
My conversation with Jerry was that if they're awarded any of these grants, he would like this group to administer it because that's what they pay this group for.
Yeah,
He said
so
they-
Pam, what has he said to you? Because I know, for example, the only thing that I had heard was if the $300,000, small projects fund was approved, that Jerry had considered that we would try to
That was the only
administer.
one I heard about.
Yeah, so from an hour's perspective, I think this is where some clarity is needed.
Because he also told me that if they're awarded the LWRP on the Everly property, that I would also be administering through this group. That's why he paid this group. And he says his comments that I won't be needed next year were taken way out of context, is what he told me.
They were so clear.
I'm just letting you know that he said if they're awarded those funds, he would expect that it'd be administered through my position here. That's why they.
I think the two topics are, one is the village actively applying for grants?
For additional grants, which he's
Right.
not.
And he clearly said, no,
Right.
no, we're not, we don't,
But he also
For a
said
year.
in 2024,
yeah,
we
well,
would have nothing, the village would have nothing for us to do.
Yeah, and, yeah, it's,
The same with the town.
so I think, Scott, I mean, all I think we need, Scott, is as we start to look at these, and this is very helpful.
Yeah.
I think what we're gonna need to do is we're going to need our village and our town reps to be very specific, to take this presentation and say, are you expecting that Scott's hours are going to be paid for through the LDC for this? Are you planning on using someone else? I mean, we need that level of clarity because it's not fair to Scott. It's not fair to us. He needs to know if he has to write a proposal to the village, to the town and to us. I mean, we just don't know.
in the New York Public grants, is there money for administration in any of those breakouts?
Not believe so.
So I think, and I don't want to bog us down
Yeah.
in specifics, but it just feels like we don't know. And that's a problem.
So we want to seek clarity from the village.
But I think.
And the
you know,
town.
Because that's why they created this and that's why they're funding it.
I tend to agree. I tend to
I
think
think they
they don't
made it
intend
very-
to write you any checks.
I think they made it
Separately
very
from
clear.
our
That's why they're
$1,000.
giving you $100,000.
Right, and
Right.
I think we all agree that, but that's not what they said.
I understand.
And the only thing
that-
we discussed at our last meeting, Jerry, in trying to clarify your email was in specific, it was just, do we
not-
plan on going for new grants? And he said no.
Jerry has no intention of going for new grants
Right.
unless a water main breaks tomorrow and there's an emergency fund.
And that was
for it or
a-
something.
Mhm.
Anything that
Right.
we've already applied for, if they're awarded it in December or January, he plans on it to be administered.
And, okay, so I guess my question would be, what grants have been applied for that are not on your report that we have no idea what they are?
They're on here and they're on that list that I.
But they're not in your report that you've put in a
That-
grant,
I put a whole cover page with those reports this time that has them all on.
right? But so I think though, if there are grants,
So
we need to start adding to that report to say, we've applied for the grant, we think we're gonna hear
That's
about.
what's on the cover sheet is what
Yeah.
he applied for, and there wouldn't be,
I have no update until they announce
Right,
it.
there wouldn't be any update unless it's awarded,
Simply that it's been applied.
right?
Yeah, so like, the next one on this list, Club Street LWRP. That's in progress, like somebody in January is gonna have to do the quarterly report, the MWBE update. That's ongoing and that's gonna be through all of 24 for sure.
And you do that
Probably. I
currently.
do that now. I've
And
been
about, and
doing
so
it.
that you could put a time on,
And the town
you can
was-
usually easily
Yeah.
put a time on that.
I can estimate.
Your bill.
Yep.
Okay.
Pending. These are these are the other two open grants that we applied for that probably won't be announced in December, or January. The town asked for, the covered ice rink from State Parks and Rec. If that's awarded, that's gonna be a 2-year administrative process with quarterly reports, MWB reporting, reimbursements, construction oversight, as far as payments, approval, recommendation of payments, collecting the documents for reimbursement request to the state. And the same with the village's request for phase 2 of East End Park. I mean, those are all gonna be overseen by somebody, and I think it's the town and village's intention that it's overseen here. Those both had administrative cost in it. So my time or whoever's time here that administers it can recoup some of that money back to the LDC through the administrative cost, because when we did the budgets, we did include administrative costs.
However, right now, our agreement with the town and village is they pay us 60/40. So.
That money's gonna go back to the town.
Exactly, that's
Correct.
and that's what I think we have to be cognitive of,
So
it's
you
like,
can apply for your own.
exactly, and which is understandable, we're kind of still in this gray area. But if like these two grants go through and we're paying somebody to administer them, but the town and village are getting the administration costs, they need to give them back. I think.
Right, but that's something.
Right, no, I just want us all to kind of be on knowledge, like,
I see what you're saying.
yeah, like, I
There's
know.
administrative costs in there.
Or,
Yet we're paying, just using Scott as an example.
Right, I think that that would be a conversation with the town and village.
Phase two of East End is Eagle Lake property.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which
And
we
you and Jerry
applied,
talked about that today.
we talked about it previously, and we applied for the grant, UCFA, that was due July 28th or whatever, so the application is in. And Jerry did talk to me about if it's awarded. and then-
So messy.
it is,
It's very messy.
it's very messy.
And we thought the mess would be resolved by now,
Mhm.
but I don't.
Well,
know
but
if that was
there's still
realistic
always, there's
expectation.
always gonna be grants that only municipalities can apply for.
Right.
So we are
Yeah.
going to have to fix this issue. So it's almost like, as you guys are talking about this, it's like a 3-column thing in my head, right? There's the grant, there's, and who's applied for it. And then are there administrative fees? And, we're gonna say it's Scott. So, does that administrative fee go directly to Scott? Or does the administrative fee go directly to the town or the village? And then we're paying Scott and then we've got to get the money back. I mean, I think there's sort of this labyrinth of money that we need to, like, on every one of these
Every
things,
grant would be different.
understand,
Have to go
like,
through that.
are they planning on somebody else to administer it, right? I mean, the town uses other people. I look through all the town minutes. I look through all the village minutes. You guys don't seem to use anybody else, but they
We
do.
haven't.
So it's like, are they planning on using Matt Cooper for this, or are they Tim White for this? I mean, we just need to know that.
Say the only thing they're using Matt Cooper for is water and sewer.
Mhm.
He's their engineer on their infrastructure.
Right, and you
project.
said Tim White does
Tim's doing
DAS and
DAS
stuff.
and that's it. Anything that I applied for them, their intent is that if awarded would be administered through here, and that's why they give you the $100,000.
Right, and Scott, all I'm saying is we need to be crystal clear on that. We need to say for every single grant, we need to know that it's been applied for. We need to motion that we agree that it's applied for and it's gonna be funded out of us. I mean, there's just steps that aren't
But we
happening.
don't have control of what gets applied for. The municipalities do.
Right, but if they're thinking we're going to fund,
They're assuming we're going to.
right, and
Fund
it's
the
so, it's sort of like this
administrative.
stuff is happening out here and all of a sudden, we
It's
find
our
out about it.
obligation.
It's just, yeah.
It's like a delegation.
Yeah, but
Project.
if you're gonna delegate, you usually let people kind of know and it's not a surprise.
But it's so undetermined because it's not awarded as of yet.
Right, but they have
So-
intent when they apply.
But
I would think
that's
they-
why they give you $100,000. I think if you said, we're gonna have to figure out who's gonna administer everything going forward, they'll just say, we're not gonna give you the $100,000.
No, Scott, no, please, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when a grant is applied for by the town or the village, because the town or the village needs to be the applying entity.
Yep.
Right.
That at that point, they should say, we know there's gonna be admin in this grant. We're not gonna need to fund somebody to administer it, or they're gonna know that they want you to do it. And then they need to tell the LDC that they're going to ask you to do it because we're the ones that own the contract. I'm just saying there needs to be a process.
Right. And
I mean-
clarity.
Yeah,
It's
So-
almost, in my mind, it's almost, here's existing grants, applications, what's been applied for, and then what does that mean in terms of administrative workload? Scott, you're probably the most educated of all of us to know what that means. So all these grants that have been applied for, you can assign potential billable hours. Would that be correct?
Yeah.
You'd be able to tell us, okay, this is the potential.
right.
If all these grants are applied for, or individual grants, what's the potential billable administrative hours that we need to be aware of?
Mhm.
And it's potential, it doesn't
Right.
mean it's going to occur, but at least, Mandy, to your point, then we can at least build some type of budget
Mhm.
around what we
Right.
are anticipating, from a high end to, current state. Because you can't just throw some on the wall and hope it sticks.
Right,
I
exactly.
mean, you
Exactly.
wanna try to build a budget. with
Well, for
some-
example, how many times have we applied for an ice rink grant? Multiple times, and then we keep not getting that. Pardon?
This will be our third time.
Third time.
Mhm.
Third time's a charm?
Yeah, could be.
Who knows?
Parks competitive, and they
That's
applied for
really-
2 parks last year, and they got the pivot point and stuff. I mean, they're both 2 parks and recreation,
Mhm.
so.
So anyway, I think, and we're gonna talk more about this a little later in our executive session, but I think we really need to have a more organized process.
So just to sum it up, if I understand, is the issue is the notification that the town or village is gonna go ahead and apply for something, but before they apply, to let us know in order to figure out the dollars. Us administering the dollars, spending the dollars, or you would describe it where, not the issue. It's a
Right, it's,
notification.
well, and it's also as part of them notifying us that they intend to have Scott administer the grant, right? We need to know that part.
Driven, but for the budget purposes.
Yeah,
Right, okay,
exactly.
all right.
Yeah. So it's 2 parts, it's, you're gonna apply for a grant and who you're intending to administer the grant. And then is that administration fee being paid for by the grant? Or are you anticipating the LDC is gonna pay for it? So yes, they give us the 100,000, but they also have said a while ago, right, that they wanted us to build up reserves. So we didn't have to keep getting 100,000 for them and we could start to be able to be on our own. And so we can't just say, oh, we got 100,000, let's spend it. We got 100,000, let's spend it. Cause
Yeah,
then we're
I
never
think-
gonna build
At
anything.
least from the town's perspective, I think the 100,000 is pretty much etched. Their thought is if a project comes, when we do get our 501c3, it would be nice to have those funds available. I don't think it's to reduce the 100. I think it's to eliminate saying we need more than 100.
Right,
That's my
right.
thought.
But I think there's a piece of me that says where we can build reserves, we should be building reserves. That,
I agree.
should we, one of the reasons we want a 501c3 is so that we can, people want to bequeath us money, right? I mean, we want to be able to go after that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So,
We also have to have a plan then for what you're building funds for, what is the purpose of it? So
Yeah.
that's part of the strategic plan.
exactly. Okay, sorry, we really got off track here, Scott. I'm
This
sorry.
is helpful though. This is helpful.
All right,
So item 4 is reporting the closeout on Tibbetts Point. If construction is able to be finished up this November, December, that'll probably go into January, February. If construction moves to the spring, that'll go into May or June, I would say, for reporting. And closeout paperwork, reimbursement paperwork on the town project, which I have been doing. In the quarterly, I've been working with Marty and Tina, pay apps, some of the pay apps, their pay apps have payroll, so Marty and Tina have to help me on that. Make sure the payroll matches, and all the time sheets are signed by everybody, so they've been helping me on that side, but I've been doing all the quarterly reporting. The WBE reporting.
I would think with the grants that have been going on, they're getting better at knowing, okay, we're gonna just make an extra copy of this timesheet's going here for the quarterly report. It gets easier. I would hope.
Yeah, there's in-kind.
Yeah.
Favor, equipment, whatever.
So the lighthouse property changed. Initially, I was involved setting that up. I coordinated the first 2 meetings and set them up and attended them. Marty's kind of taken the lead on that and had a couple meetings since then, but Marty's done January 1st, and I don't think Paul is in a position to spend that type of time to take the lead on that. So somebody is going to have to assist the town with finishing that transaction. Same thing with the strategic plan to the LDC. This position has done planning in the past for both town and village. If you wanted somebody to take the lead, dedicate a number of hours, is a planning position to lead and develop that strategic plan. Schedule meetings, schedule public meetings, schedule meetings with this board. To develop that strategic, move that forward and money coming in and any reserves that you start to get, we're going to be a plan for. To demonstrate what the use is, and we're going to follow that plan. And then the big grant, if that's awarded, somebody will have to oversee the design, the bidding, the construction, the reporting. Edgewater obviously would have a construction management and oversee the construction part of it, but they're not gonna do the reporting, the quarterly reporting, the payment for the local will have to do that. That will be structured to the town.
What's the big project, that acronym?
That is the border infrastructure grant, so that's our federal grant that we applied for additional phases of Club Street. The LDC did pay for Edgewater,
11,800.
to write the grant, Edgewater engineering, or Edgewater design, architecture, doing the Club Street plan. They've been very successful. They've submitted 19 of them and been awarded 19 of them. And they've only been 40 awarded in the history of the grant programs. They've got 50% of them. So they only, I think there's 3 or 4 they didn't get the first year, and they got them the second year.
Transient docking, basically, kind of Captain Jack's trotting and all that.
Oh, this is that one where you can detach and reconfigure, and all. That's that.
Yep.
Okay, all right,
The beginning.
the beginning.
Yep.
Okay.
So those are what I have for opportunities for 23, the end of 23 and 24.
So I have a question about this, the big project. What's the anticipation of award there?
I think you said April, March, April.
I'd say early,
April?
early spring or mid-spring, somewhere in there. It was submitted 2 weeks,
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
couple weeks.
So,
Actually, it was submitted to the state back in July.
right, it's meant to the state. That one has to go through the state parks, and coastal, they review. From the state, it's meant to the federal government. They accepted the project, submitted it on, and the final applicant, the federal government. So it made it to the final.
So the state is sponsoring it.
The state has to review them and agree and send them on. I don't know if they agree to this one or if they send multiple on, but it was reviewed by the state and accepted and sponsored by the
And that's
state.
where it's confusing is on this grant, we can use our state funded grant as part of matching because this is a federal award. I mean, it's,
So $1 million we're putting into.
you know, it's like a shell game.
Yeah,
Budget
the money's around.
Yeah.
Account, that 600,000 or the 800,000 we just asked for the New York Forward grant would count as a local share, so that would be covered.
I mean, it's a good thing, but
Yeah.
you gotta have a flow chart to see
Mhm.
where it all fits and if and when and how.
So as I said that night when we met, it's tough to say how many hours are gonna be needed for a contract because they're all pending an award of a contract.
Right.
And as I mentioned to you guys, if you came to me and said, give us a minimum contract with the opportunity to buy hours, that would be tough for me. Because I'm gonna go out and seek other contracts if I'm not getting them hours here. And then in February and January, you might get 2 awards and say, hey, we need hours. I might not have them. And that's the reason why
That's
we
fair.
committed to an annual payment and a set number of hours, regardless of the workflow, was to secure time to make sure. And when I didn't have administration and things like that, that's when they said, help us with the comp plan, do this for us, you know. I attended some planning and zoning meetings for the village, with their, you know, to just give them some oversight when Jerry asked me to, so. They utilized my hours in the past when there wasn't a grant administration going on, because they wanted to make sure I had that time when things came up.
Not to bring up more work, but I think the comp plan does need to be finalized as well. So there's
Probably need to
some-
be updated.
Updated at this point and finalized.
And looked at by each municipal board.
I did my work, I passed it on, I mean,
Oh,
where it goes in
So,
there,
yeah,
Is this the first time we've applied for the big?
yes. And it's like she said, the third time we applied for the ice rink, we met, got some feedback, but last year we were awarded Tibbetts Point instead. Both through the same agency and same program, so you're competing against yourself. The second time we applied for East End, same situation, we had some exit interviews with Irene and the LWRP people and made changes based on their recommendations. I feel good that that one will be awarded. We've gotten feedback even on our meeting the other day. They asked us questions about it when we met with DOS last week for every 2 week construction update call. They were asking about it. They've been up here on their own without telling us and taking pictures and they were up there.
That's for which one are we talking about, Scott?
East End Park, LWRP. One of them lives in, one of the state workers lives in Canada and comes over on the ferry and she was up there during quarantine. She couldn't come over and we had to Zoom her in every meeting. Yeah, she lives in Canada. She lives in Brockport.
Only till Sunday.
All right.
Well, that's what's worse. When we met last week, she's like, when's it gonna open? And we're like, it's been open since August. She's like, well, they're not advertising over in Brockport. I'm like, Jerry's like, it's full all the time, so they gotta be advertising somewhere. So she said she was gonna try to take it this week because she was last week. So that's an update. I mean,
Thank you. This is very helpful, Scott. Does anybody have any other questions at this point?
Can you load this into our
Yes.
Yeah,
our folders?
yeah, great, thank you. All right, Pam, any update on New York Forward?
The next meeting is next Thursday. There is no report.
Okay.
Hopefully, the list will be finalized Thursday or next Thursday.
Okay.
Project.
they must be asking, because like I said, they asked us to do an interview with them. So
Okay.
already- they have
Oh, it's
already-
getting close then.
Yeah, yeah.
That's good.
Well, then it goes to the state. And then
Right.
they just are gonna make their recommendations, then it goes to the state, and then the state will actually make the final
Right.
recommendations, so it's still gonna be a
Right, they're
while.
gonna send like $6 million worth of projects to the state.
that's
and the
correct.
State's gonna pick 4.5 and send it back.
All right, good, thanks, Pam. Any officer reports other than what will be spoken to later?
I've been wondering this, should I do my reports, because it's not really finance committee? Should my reports be under officer reports, or should we be?
Yeah,
We haven't met under finance committee,
Yeah, well, not since we did the budget.
right?
Yeah, you can do your report now.
All right.
Sounds good.
So we have our usual, Scott's monthly 28-12-50, QuickBooks 64.80, and rent 150. So nothing new there, but we did get $36.01 interest. Our bank account balance is $142,612, which brought me to the CD thing I sent out today, which, by the way, I checked with Watertown Savings Bank rates, 0.50 versus 4.25 for Governor. I was shocked.
Interesting.
So 4.25, I did a little bit of math on what we might spend. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
So after some more checks that have come out that aren't on this report, we're at about 138.6. We're spending, say, maybe 5K a month if we maybe have a director and we maybe have the same, maybe, right? We might have a down payment of maybe 12,000. We might need a contingency of 20 or 30,000, just to be like, what can we put away for 6 months? The town gave us their 60,000 last year in February, village in July. For 6 months, if we put away, I just thought I'd be completely comfortable with this quick envelope math of doing a CD for 65,000. And I think that leaves us plenty of
Wiggle room.
plenty, like 30,000 of wiggle room that I can't even see needing it, but we're concerned, right? We don't want to do a 6-month CD. We can see how that looks, and maybe if the rates stay up, grab another one, play with this a bit. That's $1,381 of interest. So it just irks me to see the money sitting there not doing anything. So that would be my suggestion, is get a CD for whatever amount, if somebody would like me to do
They
that.
want to check with called New York Class. Municipal banking group. that's sponsored by the state. And most municipalities are moving all their financing to them because they are paying right now about 6.1% on your full savings, and it's not a CD, it's not locked up.
Really?
The town of Union, I had them put $20 million in it in February, and they've already made over $400,000.
Okay, so,
New York class, I don't know if the LDC qualifies, it's
Right.
municipal, but you are a state sponsored group. I can get you the contact information.
Okay.
Most municipalities, they have a checking account, they have a saving, I mean, and it's, their average for like the last 3 months is over 6% interest.
yeah, because if we get 6% on the whole 140, that's way
But the
better.
key thing is it's not a CD, so if something
Right,
happens,
you
you
can use
can
it.
move it
Not
whenever
in
you
check.
want. You're
It's
not locked in. Just an idea. I mean, I can get you the information.
Please
Call and
do.
ask if you qualify.
Yeah,
If you don't
absolutely.
Qualify, you can get a CD. but-
So I'll look into that first. I'll let everybody know how that stands. Before I
So
take
do you
the
want,
other
so do you
step.
want to wait then for any kind of motion on this
I do.
until, the November meeting?
Yeah, don't you think?
I agree. Are the town and village using that? Maybe you guys should take that back to your. board.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you should both
Scott,
take that back.
yeah.
to
Yeah, and
Send to all.
we're moving ours in West Carthage, like most villages have.
This will come under finance committee.
Because of their rate of their return. And it's not a CD, and you're not locked in.
Okay.
And then a couple other things is
Yeah.
Mary's gone to the, try to get a debit card. So that we can use that instead for the Zoom, which renews on October 20th. We're hoping we have that in time. And then I can put it on the QuickBooks. I won't have to pay and reimburse each month, and so we're looking to do those things.
And what, when you bring that up, I had made a note, so in looking at the town board minutes. They sort of have this laundry list of bills they're gonna pay for the month. And then they authorize the supervisor to pay for it, so I'm
Do
wondering,
we have this backwards? I pay them and bring them in.
and I sign them,
Mhm.
which gives us the 2 signs. So I'm wondering, do we, especially if we go with a debit card? Do we, I mean, we only meet.
It's
once-
no different than a check.
Right, so I just wonder how you guys think we should handle that, do we, I mean, cause she sort of like says, this is what we paid.
As
Um,
opposed to saying, here's the bills to be paid.
right,
So
There's a difference there.
School board, town board,
I'm a,
we review the warrants or the bills. An approved payment, and then they're paid. I don't know if we're required in this type of a situation to do that or
I
not.
would guess the ones that are prepaid, like for the village in December at our annual meeting, we authorize them to pay like National Grid, like specific bills are prepaid. So then they're presented as we already paid these, or you don't ask permission every month. She can just pay them so you don't get a late fee or anything like that. So if there's specific reoccurring bills, you could probably get,
And that's what we're doing. There's
Yeah, they're all
nothing new
reoccurring.
that's been,
Yeah, that'd be it.
so that's probably how the
For
town
hours.
separates them. The town probably has ones that are already pre-authorized to pay. And then they have the bills to be paid to review.
I think everything runs through ours monthly.
Yeah.
National.
So
Grid.
Well, they
comes
should
there.
put that.
Yeah.
it comes, so perhaps I should be coming with a list of the checks. They're always dated the day after the meeting, so I could come that, you could say, yes, they're done. It wouldn't really change my procedure if
right,
I did that.
Right.
And one check that I have here is the fire insurance, or not fire insurance, our insurance, which is $806. So yeah, I've been telling you in arrears, but only spending what we've already approved. But I think that would be an easy switch
yeah,
for me to bring the list of here's the payments and we say
Mhm.
yea or nay. And I think that just covers us a little better.
Yeah.
I agree.
okay,
It's more efficient.
Okay, so I can start that right now.
okay,
We have $64.80 for QuickBooks to be paid in October. The insurance for $806. MRB Group sent a $90 bill for half an hour of work during from August 27th to September 23rd.
that
And,
was the bylaws review and the
Yeah.
governance.
and then there's Scott's ongoing, 28/12/50. And
And
the
the
rent
rent.
of 150. So those are the bills I want to pay in October.
Can we have a
I feel much
motion?
better.
Can we have a motion to pay the bills? Dan will motion, and can I have a second? Mandy will second, all in favor?
I'll do that in a more organized way going forward, but yeah, I like it.
Just,
Okay.
one other thing, Carol, so, we became members of the Chamber of Commerce.
Mhm.
And like, I think we did, and they're like now going out for renewals of Chamber of Commerce. Do we want to be members of the Chamber of Commerce? And if so, we need a motion and a vote.
Yeah.
Okay,
And so may I add that to my payment? I think it's $80.
yes, yes. And so let's see, so we had
No motion.
Bill motioned, Mandy seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
So I will take care of that.
Carol, would you like me to get you, like, for the village, there's a cover sheet. that
Sure.
List all the bills, the payments.
Some kind of little
There's a-
thing that they use.
And then there's a spot for each board member to sign it that they review.
Okay, yeah, oh, yeah.
And then there's,
Do we have to sign it? That's problematic with people being remote.
No, you get DocuSign.
the one that's here can sign it and say they looked at it. It's just something the
Not all
comptroller.
board, not the
No,
all board,
not
like the
everybody
village
has
has
to.
2 spots.
It just gives us.
Oh, I
Yeah.
got you.
It
Okay.
just lets the comptroller know if you're ever audited that somebody else actually looked at the bills and reviewed it, and signed off on it.
And that's why we have
Yeah,
two
I
signatures
just
on the
feeling like,
checks.
and as this grows and gets ridiculous, yeah.
Okay, all right, so we did motion to renew the chamber.
And I would also like a motion to renew the Zoom, and however, we just. did get
Yeah,
to
we
that.
want to talk about the Zoom thing, but yeah, I mean, I would make a motion that we
Obviously. have to-
renew
yeah.
Zoom.
I
And,
second that.
and Pam will second, all in favor of renewing Zoom? Aye. Jim,
Aye.
you with us? Thank
I'm with
you.
you. Yep, aye.
I know, I just wanted to make sure that you knew I knew you were there. All right, Club Street, Dan, anything other than what we've already discussed?
No, hoping to close on both properties by the end of the year. That's the seller's wishes. Still waiting for some, I guess, surveys from Trotter.
Okay,
But hopefully that's gonna be done before the end of the year.
excellent, okay.
Maybe jump back to finance. committee.
Yes, we may.
The budget is not in, and
Okay.
yes, did we actually approve our budget? I know it's a budget. Everybody knows it's a budget, it's not it's not actual spending. I thought we approved it at a meeting and then took it to the town and village board at the joint meeting. Yes, everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Do you want us to
May
do
I-
it again?
May I put it in Paris? It's due 11/1.
Yes, please.
Just to add to, kind of because of what he just said, like the time needed for the town to borrow money to buy the 2 properties, like this week, Dan emailed me and said, can you put together all this information based on our grants and things like that? So it's going to take me 3 or 4 hours to collect all this data. That's something you can plan for, but the town needs it before their next meeting to borrow money, because the bond company asked for it. So those are other things that go along with what,
Mhm.
you
And
know.
that was kind of I mean, when you need something, we go to Scott. When you guys need something, you're gonna ask Scott. And again, those are shake of the dice, you just don't know when.
And it was either Ben or I, and they don't wanna pay Ben $150 an hour to do it when I had the time to here, so that's. but,
Yeah.
So those are just things that come up that you can put a number to in a budget.
And it's all tied into the DOS grant, New York Forward, the big grant. I mean, it's all.
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
I'm done.
Okay, the finance, does the finance committee we have no report?
No, just, I want to finalize the budget piece.
Okay, great. Governance, any report?
No. I don't.
No, okay, I'm looking at our 2 governance people. Actually, it's 3. Jeannie, aren't you on governance?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
got
3
it.
governance
Side.
people.
I need
All
to-
right, all right. All right, that moves us on to 2 resolutions. Both of those resolutions were in the review document as well as the documents. I'd like to publicly acknowledge Bill for the amazing work that he did, and that he also, that's why we paid MRB, because we double checked that we did everything correct. But we do resolutions by a roll call vote. So the first resolution is 2023-1001. This is confirming the updated bylaws dated, today, October 12th. Joe is absent. I will say yes. Jeannie?
Yes.
Mary, you do need somebody to make a motion in a second before you do a roll call vote. Somebody has to introduce and somebody has to second.
Okay, I will make a motion to talk about 2023-1001.
A second.
Carol will second. Roll call. Joe is absent. I said yes. Jeannie said yes. Mandy?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Alright.
Pam?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, we need a motion and a second to talk about resolution 2023-1002. This is updating the governance committee charter. These charter reviews and bylaw reviews were part of the biannual review the governance committee does. I need a motion to talk about it.
I'll do,
Jeannie,
I'll second.
Mandy seconds. And we will now do a roll call vote. Joe is absent. I say yes. Jeannie,
Yes.
Mandy,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Pam.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. I will make sure that those get sent to Joe so he can put those on our website as scanned documents.
Yeah, and I'll clean up those two documents because I left the font blue so people can know the changes. But now that we've included both of those, I'll make them all black font.
Yeah, and then once you've done that, you can take them out of for review and put them, just move them to the other folders. So everybody knows the most current ones. Thank you so much. All right, back to the agenda. Jeannie, any update on the focus group
Yeah.
and or survey?
On the focus group, we have I conducted 10 one-on-ones for our group. And I promised the participants I would, send them the summary, which is what we presented to the village and town. I just want the board to give me permission to share that PowerPoint.
Okay,
basically.
so the additional things that the additional conversations you had didn't change?
It really did. There wasn't that much of an addition, but there wasn't really, it was kind of common
Okay,
with what I had given to you for the village and town presentation. So, I don't think there was any additions that I put on there, Mary. Now that I think about it, I don't think so.
okay.
But, I just want permission to share because the participants took at least an hour or longer with me to go through it. And I said I would share the results for their own information. So that would be if the board is comfortable with me sharing that. The village and town already have obtained it, so.
Yeah, and the only reason I'm even hesitating is it feels like I almost would like to give them the output and then also say, and this is what we're planning to do about it. And I don't think we've had time to plan what to do about it, but I mean, maybe that's a two-part thing. That's the only thing where I've got a hesitancy, is it's like, okay, you gave us a bunch of problems. Here's the problems you told us about. And then there's like, no, they're there.
Yeah, I
It's a
think-
bad taste. maybe.
If, I think we could add to it and say, we're still formulating a plan, like more to come.
Oh, yeah,
But
we could do it
your
like that.
info is valuable and we're gonna utilize this to.
We take an action
develop
item of da.
Because,
For the strategic plan.
and I think one of the things we did is we shared it with the town and village, like.
Yeah, you
Yes.
could
I
say
think that's
that.
Big,
Yes.
but also like, that was one group, right?
Mhm.
We're planning to do more, so I don't think we should action anything until we have the full picture.
Oh, that's a really.
You know, like,
Yeah.
we're dealing with this, be chasing our tail constantly.
Yeah,
Look, that's the next step, is talking about what is our next step, because I did one-on-ones to get it started with those particular businesses. We talked about doing a survey.
right, and that's
various
that New York,
things.
that New
Now,
York forward survey. And then we would just send that out to the town and we can get the village data, which they had a good response on the village data.
So we can leverage that. If that's where we're gonna leverage that survey and not administrate another survey. But then we have to get that summarized somehow and get that.
Yeah, somebody who was saying that they knew how to do Survey Monkey. Somebody had a Survey Monkey.
We did it for the childcare.
Yeah.
So, but I fumbled through that for the childcare. There's a cost to it. And there's only so many questions you can do. There's a timeline unless you're paying.
And
paying
plus,
I don't mind, like, I can help do Survey Monkey again, but, like, there's gonna be a cost to give it.
well, there'd be a cost to mail out the,
Oh, yeah.
to mail
I think,
out.
so.
the
I
survey.
don't think we should mail anything out, like, people aren't gonna do that. I know some people don't have technology or won't get on, but
Not just
I don't-
mail them out, they've got to compile the result.
Right, well, I mean, but the,
Survey Monkey puts it, like, those.
oh yeah, no,
graphs
I've
and
used it,
everything,
yeah.
They do that.
It does it automatically. Yeah, I mean, I think though, the only issue is, I believe the New York Forward people did it in multiple ways. So that's why they got such a good response rate.
Should
I
we
only
review
saw it online.
should we review their data and say, does it have enough information that we feel it's valid and we leverage that versus us having to administrate?
Well,
how
but
do
the
we-
problem is they only sent it to the village residents. None of the town residents got it.
Yeah, but it was posted on Facebook.
Well, yeah.
That's
but-
where I got it. I didn't get it. I might have gotten it from the village, but I took it on Facebook and it didn't, like, how did they know I'm a village resident on Facebook?
Yeah,
Right, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's what I mean, like.
Well,
so
you
theoretically,
must subscribe to something, because I
It
didn't
was on the
see.
chamber website,
Oh,
chamber Facebook page.
I
That's
saw
where I
it
got it.
too.
So,
But wasn't that one of the questions? Do you live in the village?
yeah, you had to enter the village or the
Question,
town.
You live in the village, you live in the town, or.
but if I said I live in the town, did it shut it off? Do you know?
No,
Pam?
no.
I don't think so.
Because I took the survey, it says, are you a visitor?
Right.
So I clicked it.
So do we need to do the town one? Like, I don't know. I think
I-
we need to look at the
So
data
it
before
wasn't
we.
exclusive to the village is what we're saying.
Right, right, but I guess my thing is it's one of those things where, we're gonna make, if we're gonna use this and the focus groups is the basis for our strategic plan.
Yeah.
I just wanna make
Well,
sure,
I think they're inputs, they're not necessarily exclusive,
no, I'm
there
not
can be
saying they're
others,
exclusive, but if it's,
but it's.
if there's a
already
lot of people
done.
in the town that didn't feel that they got asked or they're not on pay, I'm just trying to think about how can we be more inclusive from a survey perspective.
I think
mean-
if we could get the results and then that might give us.
Yeah,
better
Pam,
idea.
can you, because you're actually on the committee, every time I ask, they look at me like you're just an observer.
Yes,
I mean, overall, I thought it was a good survey. I mean, I looked at it when I came to the
We're
easel
gonna
chart thing they
obtain
had.
The village. New York Forward survey.
And do you-
I had a quick, sorry, I just had a quick question, Mary. Actually to Jeannie, the 10 or so that were contacted or fulfilled or whatever it was on there, and I was with you for a couple of them. Do they all know what each other said?
I can't hear what you're saying,
He's,
Jim.
he said, did all of the participants know what the other people said?
In the focus group.
No, because what occurred, and this is why I committed to providing the results. Because I ended up doing a lot of one-on-one engagements versus a group engagement. Because I couldn't coordinate people's work schedules. So a lot of them are one-on-one engagements versus the group focused strategy. So no, they don't have the feedback yet of the total group.
Okay, all right, so a suggestion might be, one of the things I did hear, of course, was the lack of frequent contact, if you will. So I don't think you can sin by potentially taking the 10 or 12 that you talked to and sending something out for comment on each other's comments that were done. They don't have to necessarily say where they came from as opposed to what it is. And then email or mail, if they don't have this ability, but probably email, comments on the other comments, because then that can be something that you use before your focus groups. And you could also measure it up against the other survey that was taken as well. And it does a couple of things potentially. One, here you go, you're contacting more frequently than they ever expected and complained about a little bit, as I recall, right? It looks a little more inclusive, giving them comment on what other people said, and it's not difficult, right? And then you have another piece of something that you can take to the focus groups that might shape your focus groups or shape another survey, or even see how it blends in with what the other survey is showing on that. And it can be the reason for yet another contact with these people again. It's only mail, it's only a stamp, or it's an email, but it might be getting to the issue of brokering them all in a little more frequently.
Good point.
Yeah, same concept,
Yeah,
just getting communication going with, because these 10 invested their time, so they have interest. So we
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
keep motivating.
so
that interest.
do we need a motion to give Jeannie permission to sending this out in an email?
I'll motion.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Update on, and Pam, you're gonna get the survey,
Yes.
right? So we can look at that maybe at the next meeting. Let me know if you're gonna need time on the agenda to review that.
Okay.
That would be great. Thank you. Dan, update on the town.
Something exciting, budget time.
Do you, any idea when they might sign the IMA?
No.
So both Marty and, Jerry both have a copy of the IMA. I handed that to them at the joint meeting. It was basically based on last year's.
Yeah, we meet next week, so I can.
Yeah.
So both Pam and Dan would follow up on the status of that
Yeah.
because you're our coordinators. Is that like the goal
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
Yep.
Great. All right. Pam, anything from a village perspective?
Let's see, no, we're really happy about how East End is looking, closing that out. New York Forward next week. We did have Ron Clapp, who's, has the Carlton Villa come to one of our meetings in September and, just shared some information. Everybody's excited about that. I think that'll be really big, both for the town and the village.
Yeah.
in the long
Came to our
term.
meeting.
In a better position to apply the Restore New York grant is going to open up in the next week to 10 days.
Great.
Does he know that?
No, I didn't know you was back up and around. So
You,
I had to contact, I can reach out to him, but the town or the village has, the town, not the village.
right.
The town would have to be the lead.
Will you contact him? Just, they are, doing great job. We did have, unfortunately, some, theft with Cape Vincent. I don't know if everybody heard about that this last few weeks, couple weeks. A vehicle stolen, trailer, big trailer off private property and a motorcycle.
Oh, geez.
I thought
Yeah.
you might need to write up for the meeting.
It was in my car. My son's was one of them, and then across the street, well, it was Ron Trottier's property up here. He has all that land, he didn't have the gate closed and they took a trailer. I don't know if they put the motorcycle on that, which was from the other end of town. So lock up your cars.
Did they
Of course,
catch
don't
him?
leave your keys in them.
Did they catch him?
They've recovered my son's vehicle and I think the other two items, and they have a couple of leads, a couple of suspects, but
Wow.
craziness. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't hear that. I thought what I got out of that news that I thought was that cars were being broken into and things.
Yeah.
I didn't get the level.
Which has happened before several years ago, and I thought most people had learned to lock up their cars, including my son at that point, but.
I'd take mine and not recover it.
And here I'm sitting with my keys in my car.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
think of that too.
Yeah.
We never take our keys out. So don't go to Interac or.
Dan's gonna start with the car. I'm like.
That's it, I think, Bill.
Yeah, thanks, Pam. Joe is absent, so we'll skip a website update. Mandy, anything on childcare?
No, no updates.
No updates. All right, new business. So we had exchanged some emails on the Clayton Improvement Association and contacting them. We did not decide who was going to contact them and we did not motion to contact them. So who would like to take the lead on contacting them and seeing if we could have them at an upcoming meeting?
We have enough information to talk to them prior.
I
to
think
doing our
I think
strategic
it's more them explain, kind of
What
the
they
way,
do. Yeah.
kind of the way Tilt did. Remember
Yeah,
Tilt
sure.
came and sort of talked about what they do and all
And
that.
we
So
are under their umbrella. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
So definitely, yes.
So an informational presentation.
Yeah, an informational presentation.
Meeting?
That's, yeah, what I'm thinking, yeah, instead of have a special meeting, just like we did with we just do it early so that they could take off and not listen to all of our stuff.
I know Mike Pavlov is on it, was involved with it. I don't know. who
I know
else.
on their website, there's a contact email and stuff, but I didn't wanna jump and do that without the board's permission.
Would you like to do that?
I would be happy to do that if the board would like me
We
to do
nominate
that.
Art.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
We motion, Mary.
All right, I will contact them and see if I can arrange it. Can I have a motion and a second? Mandy,
Second.
Pam, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Yeah, and I let them know that it came up with a joint
yeah,
town village LDC meeting
Yep.
and
I will get that and let you guys know when they might be available. All right, I think, Dan, you might have asked for the French Festival fundraising effort to be
yeah,
added.
before our joint meeting, the French Festival Committee came and met with the town and village. As we all know, volunteers are just non-existent. They're running at about a $20,000 a year deficit. They definitely want to keep it going. Town and village certainly want to keep it going. But it's a difficult situation to just say, you know, we'll give 10, you give 10 out of taxpayers' dollars. So we've committed to 30,000 for the chamber. This is a whole separate situation. This is French Festival only. That night, we did ask for revenues and they promised to get them. I haven't seen them yet, have you? Which is a little discouraging, but anyway. The town asked me, said, if we commit to 5, if the village commits to 5, could the CVLDC try to commit to a perpetual $10,000 fundraiser year after year? And I said, it would certainly be in our wheelhouse with our mission and so forth to try to keep something like that alive. So I'm bringing it up. I don't have any tremendous ideas, but there's a lot of perpetual fundraisers out there that you can get involved with using the lottery. You can do a GoFundMe, you can do an appeal. There's all kinds of different things. So I'm just kind of throwing it out there to you guys, because they're hoping that we would commit to $10,000.
So have they
Taking
given
it
us,
out of our
I
coffers.
would like to see a budget, like their fundraising that they did and their costs.
No, they don't do a lot of fundraising. They
Don't
go
do
big,
any.
borrow and steal.
Right, I know I write checks every year, so there's gotta be other businesses that do as well.
Yeah.
So there, you know, there's some money came in.
And
And
that's
then-
what we
specifically
asked.
for
And
French
that's what
Festival.
we asked.
I'll check with Nicole.
And then what are their expenses?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. What are their expenses? I know they obviously
Bands.
have,
I've got that.
Yeah,
Yeah, we got.
I can email you that. One of the big concerns, is liability and security. They're looking to actually go out and hire a security firm.
is that something that's required or something that is needed because of issues?
Mass, the permit.
Mass gathering permits?
Yeah, I don't know if it's required. I mean, we used to get fire departments.
Right.
They wear their vests but they don't do it anymore.
Didn't Fort Drum send some people this year? I think
They
there
did.
were some Fort Drum
That
folks.
doesn't meet the requirement, I think,
Yeah,
from what.
I can forward you that they shared. I got some scribbles on it, but I'll forward you guys that. Take a look at that, but I mean, think about it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, $10,000 is not a astronomical amount, I don't think.
No.
If we can come up with, and I think most people in the town and the village want to see French Festival continue.
Mhm.
I certainly do. It certainly helps our businesses tremendously. And a lot of people piss and moan, oh, the businesses don't do anything. They can't. They're busier now. I mean, that's the idea of,
Yeah.
that's why French Day was, started and evolved. So,
One
anyway.
thing we might want to look at, and one of the New York State things that I listened to, and I think it might have been Jamestown that got DRI. They got DRI. But they actually created a fund that would be used to bring things into town. So they had like a separate part of their budget where, and I'm thinking like the stuff that Clayton has, like the comic book stuff and that, but they would, so you weren't so dependent on your local volunteers, but you in fact were using a company who kind of came with employees that like, and they said that they had done it 3 times. This was their 3rd funding round for that. I don't know if, and I'm just brainstorming. It was a really interesting concept and they said it was really tremendous for their community. I don't know if the New York, if they did that with DRI, could the small projects grant for 300,000, could a portion of that be used? Because they use DRI money to do it. Could the New York Forward, could we take part of the 300,000 to supplement French Festival? I don't know. It's just an idea.
But that was part of, the town's perspective in trying to get a covered enclosed facility here on the ice rink. Is there's a lot of things, just like you talked about, that you could bring in.
Yeah,
If we had space.
right.
You had-
I mean, yeah, I mean, and that would be just something where, and even outdoor, I mean, we have such beautiful outdoor area, right? But if it was a concerted effort around a fund and there was a group that was managing and actively looking for that stuff.
Is there any grants for that type
I
of
was
stuff?
just gonna say, you can reach out to Northern New York Community Foundation.
I don't
There's
know.
up to $10,000 from Jefferson County. They gave Northern New York Community Foundation $1 million to give up to $10,000 grants for nonprofits that encourage through creative and broadly expanding programs and services between their work to create economic development in the community.
Whoa, that sounds like it's right in
I
the
think
zip
we
code.
talked about this though, is the chamber five or a nonprofit? I think we've had this discussion, I don't know if it gets there.
501s, they're not a 501c3, they're a 501c3 or something different, so the chamber don't qualify.
Right.
And that's the problem with the chamber, God bless them, but they don't have a revenue, I mean, their fundraisers, other than the beer fest. They aren't, they aren't revenue, they bring a lot of people in. And the community benefits and the businesses do, but they themselves don't. They,
Well,
Scott,
like
can
Clayton
you-
has the food and wine festival and their chamber sponsors that, and I'm sure they make money on that.
when,
And I know like.
Barry said with the rec center up there with the
Right.
ice rink, I mean, you can have anything.
Right, exactly. So those are some of the big events like Clayton does, that they bring in money.
Scott, could you check with the New York Foundation and see if the chamber could, I mean, if we could get the money some other way,
I
Well,
think
they even talked about corporate sponsors.
Yeah.
yeah.
if you did 501c3 anytime, you could apply it for them.
Well,
Right,
you know,
right.
in a lifetime, I would
That's
like
what I
to.
Before the next
Right.
French festival, I
Right.
mean, if you get it in the next month or two, we could,
Well, like this is, and when they make their decisions, they're in-house, these grants that usually the.
This program is a rolling basis, like there's no deadline, you submit your application, if they approve it, they cut you a check for 10 grand. That's, it's on a rolling
Yeah.
basis, they're accepting.
So, yeah, so let's see if the chamber can do it since, we
They
will
can,
talk in
yeah.
open discussion about the current status of our
But could we
501c3.
do it? We can't right now.
And once
but-
we get it,
Right, but the chamber won't be able to do it.
well, we don't know, I mean, he's gonna
Chamber's
check.
not eligible,
Yeah,
'cause we checked in Carthage on the Carthage Chamber and they weren't eligible.
Oh.
We tried to get the money for the farmers market and they weren't eligible.
Are they the same by the?
I think all state
Oh, all
chambers are
chambers.
the same.
Oh, Newt Zimmerman was, sorry.
Anyway.
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's possibly if, we get the 501c3, we apply for that grant, and then we could just
Yeah.
flow it right through.
And I don't know if you're taking anything back to him, but I can try and link up, who was the head of French festivals in Nicole? Because Bill and I sat down with Christie and talked to her about volunteers from Fort Drum.
Mhm.
And I don't know, the volunteer program works under my umbrella kind of, and I don't know that that's been massaged out yet. But a lot of soldiers and spouses do a lot of volunteer work, and something like that, and what we had talked to her about is like, maybe the, I don't know, fire department would donate 10 meals for the volunteers to go get a voucher, then we're not only getting volunteers to help with stuff, but then they're gonna eat and they'll stay.
Yeah.
And they'll drink
And
their
they'll
families.
participate, right, so like, getting them in, give them a little something, they'll come, especially the soldiers, give them some food.
Yeah, and it's right back to the volunteer.
And it's right back to the whole, yeah.
Right,
No,
right, but I can talk to Nicole
I think
about
that's
that
a great
too,
idea.
because I don't know if Christy, like, we were talking the Oktoberfest and other,
Multiple events.
right, but I know, like you said, French Festival is kind of separate.
But some of the things that they're proposing, they're gonna need security. They're talking about shutting off access to the village at 7 AM.
Yeah.
For everyone. Regardless if you live there, if you have family coming,
Why?
dangerous traffic. I mean, they got bitched at, sworn at,
Oh,
cursed
yeah,
at
that was,
this year
yeah,
And the year before.
and the year before. And another reason you don't get volunteers. I mean, who's gonna volunteer and go through that? But I mean, some of the stuff I don't necessarily agree with, but I'm not on that committee, so I'm not throwing stones,
but I
but
guess they also, and this is what I had told some of them, you need to be more transparent why you're making these changes. They were not transparent about making the changes until like I really asked some questions about why, like one-on-one, like, why are you doing this? And like, we have to because of the mass gathering permit. Tell people that,
Right.
tell people that you have to do this,
Right,
because right now everyone's just mad and
right.
because they don't know, not, you have to share.
never been that
knowledge.
way. No, I get it.
But
I suggested getting somebody that would write an article every week
Yeah.
at PI sign.
Leading up to it.
Update on
yeah.
French Day,
Mhm.
starting right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Here's where we're at. We're 20,000 in the tank.
You might
We
get
need
some
money.
sponsors out of that.
You might get
Donations.
sponsors, you might get private donations. Again, you gotta have somebody that will commit and write a 2-paragraph article every week, but it would help.
They can, can't.
Okay.
I don't.
I think the chamber can take donations.
The chamber can take.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
definitely.
Okay.
They're asking
But,
for. I get
That's
asked.
just your volunteer program, but I know you
There's-
go to
they-
the name for. If you
Oh,
people are on.
Oh, the snap link?
Snapling.
Yeah.
So maybe if he doesn't get you who the Snapling
Yes.
battalion assigned to Cape Vincent, the mayor and Marty, you can invite them up and meet with them and start a relationship. We've used the ones in Carthage and West Carthage to volunteer at our events. And that's not like a volunteer program, like they have to do so many things
Yeah,
a year.
the snap link is really that. It's a partnership with the community. Go ahead and show that interface between the soldiers sport drum and the local community. And so they would send to be determined representation, whatever it looks like, volunteers, stuff, etc. And they should be back by next French Festival.
Our Snap Link is deployed.
So for that organization, but yes, that's an opportunity. And then, since we're just talking about one event, that's exactly right. And is, we get a French Festival flyer and then we either do it or we just link them up, send it. This person here sends this flyer and request for volunteers. And then I'll go through the single soldiers, I'll go through the family readiness groups, volunteers. So you can get into Fort Drum, or at least the volunteer piece of it, and it's free advertising. The Snap Link, that's another way to advertise it and potentially get volunteers. And then I don't know if we go to the high school or not, because they have to have the junior and National Honor Society's volunteer hours. They may already be doing that.
The problem there, and I think this needs to be addressed at the high school, is they don't count summer hours, because Reese volunteered all summer, and they're like, that's great, sorry, I don't count.
You're absolutely right.
The other thing with SnapLink, if your battalion's deployed right now, it might be a good time to start a relationship and have the community like send them
Send them
Christmas
care
stuff and start building that relationship. So when they come back, they're already familiar with the community and will wanna go on.
So for the, oh, I'm sorry, Bill.
So for Snap Link, I can find a unit POC and just say, who should I link this up in the town or the village to begin that conversation relationship? And then it may lead to things like that.
So it feels to me like for the minutes, Jeannie, one action is what Bill just said he was going to do. Are there any other actions out of this discussion at this point?
I'll have a conversation with Nicole to make sure that she's either had a conversation with Christy about potential Fort Drum volunteers, or make sure that she's
Okay.
tracking what we told Christy, you know what I mean?
Some revenue.
Yes.
Lindy or somebody.
Mary, the Jamestown program was $600,000 to fund and execute off-season programming to attract large range of audiences to downtown and Riverwalk through funding, coordinating and supplementing their efforts.
So they did use DRI money,
Used
so I'm
600,000
curious if we could use the small, because we're not Jamestown. We're a lot smaller, so that might be
So the small
It was-
project fund, they could ask for $30,000 to fund.
French Festival.
Is that only for next year? How does that work? Yeah.
But I mean,
But what we
Besides that,
could, what they
chamber-
could say is for the next 3 years.
well, the chamber could say, we want $30,000 to fund the French Festival, Oktoberfest, multiple, and then the chamber can maybe
Pocket the money. back
pocket
to
the money that they're getting from everybody else to
To
pay
pay
for the
for
following
future
year,
years.
start like Kitty,
Yeah.
pay a year in advance.
So I mean, we don't know the rules around the 300,000 yet, but this woman from Jamestown just like sang the praises of this.
Yeah.
Is somebody able to find that out, or is that we have to wait until we're told? what the rules
Oh,
are?
well, we have to wait,
Okay.
yeah.
Have to wait
no,
to see if
It's,
that's where the
it's,
project
it's
is
steps on the New York Forward thing.
Okay,
So do we get the 300,000? If we get the 300,000, then another New York State agency is going to tell us how we're going to administer the 300,000. And there'll be a whole other, like,
So if they're.
baby
awarded,
New York
that would be
Forward
part of the
piece of work.
conversation. Like, can we use it for?
That's why we need, like,
part of it.
All right, so it seems like between Bill and Mandy, they got all the actions. Dan, are you comfortable with us just taking those 2 steps at this point?
Yeah.
Okay,
And I'll send you what they shared with us that night.
oh, right, that was another action. That's why I asked, I kind of lost track of what the actions were.
Mary, can I raise a possible action thing?
Yeah, sure, Jim, thank you.
You might recall, we talked last August, before Labor Day, with the resumption of the ferry, a Canadian operation, that we might want to engage Kingston or Ontario tourism officials to see whether they might want to support that ferry in some way through their tourism money or in a combination, maybe even Wolf Island. But we're at the receiving end of that. Even if it doesn't come to us, it would improve the marketing capability to that ferry, and a discussion potentially, and I don't know who, with whom, by the way, I don't know if it's Kingston or it's Ontario, but sometimes moving in a Canadian company to a Canadian exercise like that can be a benefit to us on our end here. A better, and a joint program on events that we might do could come from that as well. French Festival being one of them, I don't know if Oktoberfest, the ferry still runs or not, but nonetheless, it can be even conjured up some other events that the ferry company should have the responsibility to say, we want to promote that to get people from Kingston on over, or a quick way, the way they've traditionally said the ferry should be used. It's an end run around the backup at 81. But the discussion, we talked about maybe reaching out to Kingston or Ontario tourism officials. And the only reason I raise it is because we have run in the past state promotion campaigns for different states. And these little regional ones sometimes are a source of pretty good money and cooperation. They're eager to show stuff, and maybe using the ferry as one of their focuses can back us into something that gives us some promotion as well, even though the money can only go to a Canadian company, the Horns Ferry. It might be something maybe worthwhile a conversation to either Ontario tourism or even Kingston.
So Pam, I know there's been discussions with the ferry ownership and things in the village. What are your reactions to Jim's comments?
I think it's a great idea to communicate with, the ferry and Kingston. We used to be in contact with, people from the Chamber of Commerce in Kingston. We had a program for a while called Linger Longer, where we worked with them trying to increase traffic and, the biking trail, because there's so many bikers that come over. So I think it's a great idea. Right now, we're in a little bit, Georgia signed the paperwork, but it still hasn't been finalized in legal process.
And that's for the property on our shoreline.
Correct, and it will also, yes, and so his relation that's going to be co-running it or taking over, I'm not sure how that's gonna pan out. But I think we could talk to the Chamber of Commerce people and or the ferry, both, I guess.
So would the right action be for Jim to talk to Christie? Our chamber?
I was thinking of the contacts I'll try to dig out who we talked to before.
Okay.
Between Wolf Island, we had a contact or two, and then Kingston. A gentleman that owned, the big hotel over there was really involved with us, and, unfortunately, back at that time, weren't getting grants or anything. We were kind of
Yeah,
way ahead of where this is now, so.
Corey Fran would be a good contact.
Okay.
TI tourism, I'm sure
Okay.
they're in contact all the
Yeah.
time.
so
And
what
that's
would be what would be the next step for Jim? Are you guys gonna send him, I'm looking at Dan and Pam, send some information to Jim, and then maybe Jim could come back with a proposal on next steps?
Sure.
Would that work for you, Jim?
It would. I would just bring one thing to mind. It's 8 months till May when the ferry starts. Generally, governments like this, on tourism money and the like, they certainly plan at least 6 months ahead. And they sometimes, depending on their fiscal year, they make commitments here. But I would say we're pretty close to being in front of it still, but not for long. That's the only thing I would suggest. There's something that maybe in the next month or two, an action thing that has things going. And even inquiries without full amount of information to see what the taste test would be for participating in something jointly, or actually singularly on their part, but we could help at the receiving end for what they want to do for that ferry.
So would the summary be that Pam and Dan will send you the contact information, and then you'll come to the November meeting with sort of next steps, or you've already kind of contacted them and got some information?
Yes,
Do an assessment and
Yeah.
just assess possibilities.
Yeah, assess the
right?
possibility.
yes.
Do we need a motion for that?
It's an action item.
Okay, just want to make sure that we're doing motions every,
Now, I
Time
do
I open
know,
my mouth.
I was comfortable, we took the ferry. There, in Marysville, there's a new, their ferry area is all under construction.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
enormous what they're gonna be doing there, it's pretty impressive, so. Whether it's the province of Ontario or the government of Canada, there's a lot of infrastructure going into Wolf. For the ferries to go back and forth to Kingston. So there's definitely a lot of movement going on there for sure.
all right, so does that sound like a good set of actions then?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, so you guys are gonna send that to Jim. Jim, let me know if you're gonna need time on the November meeting, and I'll make sure I carve out some time. And actually, that goes right to the publicity plan that we were talking about, which was also your topic. So do you want to talk a little bit about the kind of email we exchanged about publicity and what your thoughts were?
Yeah, I think we had talked about what I call slicing and dicing, rather than wait for one big event that we might announce or something like that, that we start thinking in pieces that feed the Thousand Island Sun. And I think it was Dan that was saying here before about, for instance, even with French Festival, a little more concerted effort about early things earlier. And by the way, the thing about Kingston and Ontario, I think the capital stuff that they're doing in Marysville, that's very good. That shows an interest about Wolf Island, which this is a part of. But I was trying to hoping to get into the promotional support they would give the ferry, that we're a part of, that we don't have to pay for, that makes a complete thing for them and the ferry. They're supporting their ferry, their Canadian ferry, but we're the beneficiary. So it was more promotional stuff to be in, right? Promotional stuff. But related to that is also maybe the kind of promotion that comes from the press stuff in the TI Sun, but also maybe a little more of a focus on the viral propagation, which is really where almost everybody goes. My daughter's going to get married on our island in Carlton, right, in June. And everybody has gone online to find places they can stay. And Wolf Island and the Wolf Inn came up, Kingston came up. You know, it's not like I can tell everybody. They do it themselves now. So I think if you intercept these people who are looking to come here and do stuff like this. Even this eclipse thing I saw, somebody got a hold of me and said, is that going to happen in Cape Vincent too? Well, I think if it's happening in Watertown, it's going to happen in Cape Vincent, the eclipse, the May eclipse. But to your point about the plan, maybe slicing and dicing more things that we just need a little cooperation on potentially. Who does it? I mean, I think we want to be a little sensitive to the chamber, right? And not make ourselves so big that we Bigfoot everybody in the process, but a little coordination there about events, and then who does them, and then the media thing, but mostly the social and digital that happens. Some coordination there. Much of it might be getting done now. I don't know per se. I just know a lot of people, when they come up and they sort of search the area up there, they're coming up with things I don't know. We've been up there 40 years. So if we could get into that space a little more, I think it would be really, really helpful.
And I think that was what, where Bill was talking about sort of trying to use the chamber sort of as that throughput.
Yeah.
I thought also, Jim, though, when we were speaking, one of the things that came up in the focus groups that Jeannie has spearheaded was that they don't know what the LDC is and what we do.
Right.
So I was thinking also that we might want to consider some of the ideas and certainly some of the background that you have with your expertise on how might we start. I mean, really, the only thing they hear about from us is we have another open board seat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all we got, guys. So it feels to me like, and when we were talking, Jim, emailing, I was thinking, wow, is there some way we should have a publicity plan about us? And maybe that's premature where we are, but how do we start to get the word out that, we're here and what our mission is and that kind of thing.
Well, to just follow up on that quickly, the slice and dice thing, I was really thinking more would be related to when we sort of have our plan, and then we can dissect that into bite-sized pieces and roll out many individual pieces over time, even with the TI Sun or virally propagated, even to get a core list of people that are of the focus group people we did, the one-on-ones we did. I would consider them for sort of a special frequency, even if it's letters, old-fashioned letters that come in about progress, because to make them feel that they're part of something that's moving, not an occasional contact. And that's why I made that recommendation before, show the others what they did, give them a chance to comment. And it starts to build a little bit of a herd among the people you need the most. But we could also maybe use the TI Sun, but I would emphatically say maybe over the next several weeks and how we do this, I can make some suggestions on how to virally propagate. But I think the biggest thing happens with, apart from anything we get from grants or anything like that, or big stuff, is really when we have the plan, because that can be rolled out in pieces rather than one big thing that gets one story in the Thousand Island Sun and we don't hear anything more about it.
That makes sense. Okay, any questions for Jim? All right, next up is the Zoom renewal. So this is more just informational and Carol mentioned it. So what we did last year is I paid for the Zoom. It's assigned to me and it expires on the 20th. So I know it's, in the executive session, I will step out at the point where we're going to talk about the executive director. I don't know if we'll have a decision, and obviously this is sort of like, I've got a foot ahead of the other discussion. But as you guys think about that, if there is going to be an executive director, that person should probably be the person who owns the Zoom. Because they're going to do all the stuff that I do, which is come here, set it up, start the Zoom meeting, set up the calendar notices. So I've been doing all that. I own the Zoom.
Can't we, once we get our 501c3, get a nonprofit
Yes.
Zoom that can just attach?
We
to it?
can, but yeah, it's sort of a chicken and the egg thing, and we're talking the 20th
Right.
of
I
this
don't think
month.
we're
So
gonna-
it's a week from Friday.
We're not gonna have a decision on the executive director by the 20th.
If you don't want to renew that until you have an executive director decision, I have an account with my business that I can send out an invitation for next month in December. I mean, it's not, if you want to hold on.
Yeah.
Pay for a business account, I can
I mean, I could just let it lapse if that's what you guys want to do, and then Scott can send the meeting notices for the next 2 months.
I thought that we had, Joe changed the email and stuff.
Okay.
Well, we did, and we tried that, but still it's gotta be associated with somebody's email, and so when we did that little test, we went back to me, because it didn't work the way we thought it was.
But then he set up a CBLDC Zoom. Did you not see that email? He set up another email.
Okay. But it's still, they're gonna want it associated with a personal email, I believe.
But if we let it lapse and wait for a 501c3, maybe it doesn't have to be at that point, because it's a business Zoom.
Yeah,
Is yours a business Zoom, Scott, or is it like a your?
So it's not a big, we don't think it's a big deal if we let it lapse?
at this point, it's associated with me,
Right.
right? So it's, even though it's Mary Farrell Zoom, because that's the only way we could do it.
Right.
So if you guys want, we'll just let Scott take over scheduling the next 2 meetings.
Were we paying that monthly or in?
It's an annual thing, and I paid and just got reimbursed,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Back, Mary Rudd wrote me the check at that
Right.
point, because we didn't even have the money. So,
Look how far we've come.
yeah, there you go. All right, so is everybody good with that? Then I'm gonna let it lapse. Scott, you'll need to send out the November 1st and the December, whatever it is. And then I'll cancel mine.
So I'm just looking at this email from Joe. Why did we set up the Zoom email then? What am I missing here?
Should we check?
Because
it,
that was
try
when
it?
Mary resigned and.
No, but this was
No,
just,
this
this was just
no, we were
9/29.
testing it.
The password is the same, contact cbldczoom@gmail.com.
Okay,
Work, right? You do?
So he was trying to set up that the Zoom would be attached to that.
and then we would pay with what? Our debit card if we got it. But we're not, are we gonna have it by the 20th? That's the problem.
Right, but if not, I can use my credit card and reimburse me if that's
Okay.
the issue.
All right, Carol, do you mind talking with Joe about that?
No,
Just so we can resolve it?
so, yeah,
Okay. So let's try to do that, Scott, first before,
or let
And
it
that would
lapse
be a
and
more-
let Scott do the meetings and then when we get
Figure it
our,
out.
yeah.
okay, so what do you guys want to do?
I say let it lapse and then we'll
Mhm.
get it official once we have our 501.
Okay. Do we need a motion on that?
Carol, don't pay the bill.
Right.
I second that.
Yeah, all right, we motioned it, I mean,
Versus-
Let it-
all in favor?
Aye.
Next up, board evaluation, so, attached, and, Jim, I sent this to you via a PDF. As I was going through the stuff MRB gave us, one of the things, and we didn't do this last year because we were only in business 3 months, is a board evaluation of board performance. So I attached this, it is something that I would think the governance committee would run. So that we would have one catcher of this and then they would summarize how we come out. But it felt to me as I went through the MRB stuff that this is something we should do annually. So that's why I'm bringing it up. What do you guys think? And I'm thinking if you guys all have a copy, we could all fill it out. We could give it to the governance committee in the November meeting. Then they could summarize and tell us about it in the December meeting, which feels like it would be a good annual type.
And where did you get this evaluation?
This was
topics?
in the MRB stuff that they gave us when they did the strategic framework.
Okay,
It was pages 59 and 60 of the document.
okay.
So what do you guys think?
I think that's a good idea.
Yep, all right, so do we need a motion on this? All right, so we're gonna motion that the governance committee will run this evaluation. Everyone has it in hand. Would you guys like it back by November 1?
Yeah.
The governance committee would have this back by November 1 and summarize the results for our December meeting.
Do we have this electronically that we can be so much easier?
The only thing I have is a hard copy, and I mean, if I have it as a PDF, if somebody can make it a editable PDF, I do not have that ability.
I think it's in our Google Drive, because I'm pretty sure I downloaded state of print for the meeting.
But
Yeah,
it wouldn't be an editable PDF, It wouldn't have
Yeah.
the boxes that we could fill.
I can,
Usually you can.
I can
burn
do it
them.
with my PDF program, on my own, and I can
yeah.
edit.
Can you, Pam, could you make it an
Well,
editable
I
PDF?
can't actually say that I could make it up with all the boxes and stuff, I'm just saying that.
I got it,
You got it?
I got it, I'll make it a Word document.
Yeah.
All right, so you're gonna so the action, Bill will email that to all of us and we will fill it out, soft copy and get it back to Bill. Bill, if you don't mind being the catcher. And then, okay, so, and then we had a motion, I don't remember,
Yeah.
Dan.
second.
and Mandy seconded, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to open discussion. I'm sorry, guys, I know it's a long one, I'm trying to get us through it.
It is long.
All right, just to bring everybody up to speed on the status of the 501c3. So we did receive that, and I think most of you saw the response from the federal government that they wanted more information.
Regarding loans.
Regarding the loans piece of it. So I sent it to Tracy at MRB Group and she drafted some responses for us. She sent it, there was some emails between Dan and I, and Tracy saying who should contact the BSK, is that what the attorney is?
Yes.
Brody's BSK? Yeah, so Tracy suggested BSK look at the responses. They also need to give us a sample loan application. Tracy sent that on 10/4. Brody said he would take a look at it. We have not heard from him. On the 10th, I asked Tracy again to follow up with him, and as of today, we still had not heard back from Brody. We are like really up against this.
What was the date?
We
Isn't
have
there
to
a
have it by
deadline?
10/23. Back to-
10/23.
Yeah.
Wasn't there, we could extend it or something, or wasn't there some verbiage there?
I don't remember. off the
Yeah,
top of my head.
It'd be better to just get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we want to get it back by 10/23. So I just wanted to bring everybody up to speed. That's where we are. You know, Dan and I are on it. We're sending. Well, not daily yet. We're trying to be like, you know, not daily. We'll be getting to daily like Monday. Okay. Are,
Mike Brody, I mean, Texan.
well, I think Tracy did.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, no, I mean, if you want to put some more fire under them, I'm all for it because we really need them.
The deadline, it can't hurt.
Yeah, can't hurt.
If our deadline's the 23rd, it's like the 15th.
Yeah.
Unless he has it.
I mean, and I guess here's the question. So we're gonna provide these responses. We are not gonna have a meeting to talk about the verbiage of those responses. We'll have Tracy's language edited by an attorney. Are you guys okay with
Yeah.
us just letting that rip back to the federal government?
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
I just wanted to make sure.
Response due date October 23rd.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
In what format?
It was questions, so I think we just need to, once I get the finalized wording, I'll just paste those in to the document. And then I'll.
And there is
I'll
a
scan
fax,
it.
there is a fax on
Right.
here.
Yeah.
I
Does
don't
the
see- I
village
don't
have a
see an
fax?
email.
Village or
Yeah.
town have a fax? I don't have the ability to fax.
And if we don't provide the information by the due date,
I mean, there's this
Yeah, what is it?
possibility we have to file again and pay the
Right.
fees a second time. I
Yeah.
know that was all in there.
yeah,
So
And there is,
You just have to have it happen.
there's actually literally a contact name and a phone number.
If we're getting close, maybe somebody can reach out to that. person.
Yeah. Well, let's just, fingers crossed that we can make the date and move forward. The only other thing I wanted to bring up in open discussion was, so I think you all saw Joe, that he is not planning on going for his 3-year term. He was one of the 1-year terms. So we will have to go through our process to have an open seat. Jim, you were the other person because you were extending someone else who was a one-year term. What are your intentions for next year? Are you gonna go up for a 3-year term?
I would if that's what the board wants.
Great.
I see
Yeah.
lots of heads shaking. Yes, all right, so we're gonna have one open seat. The last time that I sent, an email to the Thousand Island Sun with the thing, they made it an editorial. I can do that again using sort of the same kind of words, if you guys are okay with that, to start looking for Joe's replacement.
We had somebody.
Well, that was, so here's the thing. Yes, so our official process is we're gonna put it in the TI Sun, but we have Dave Snow, my next door neighbor, who I think would be awesome. And we all have his thing, but we do have a process.
Right.
So what I would suggest is that we put it out in the TI Sun, probably in November. You know, ask for things by the beginning of December. I also yell over my virtual fence to Dave and say, Dave, we got your stuff. Do you want me to include it? And then we'll go that way.
I would suggest tweaking your verbiage to say something along the line of, due to term expiration or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I like that. Yeah.
For optics, yeah, good idea.
That's great language. Thank you. Okay, and I will, I'll draft that up. I'll send it out to you guys just so you see it and see if anybody has any other tweaking before I let it rip. All right, at this point, I would like to move that we go into executive session. We have 2 personnel topics to discuss. So I would like to move for that. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, great. Scott, at this point, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. And you're gonna put your presentation out there so we have it, right?
Already,
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Scott.
if you, discussing my contract or want to negotiate, I can wait and come back in and negotiate an executive.
I don't think we're doing that in this session, right? That was not I didn't believe that was part of it.
Offering?
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah. And believe me, when they talk about the executive director, I'll be sitting in my car. No sense both of us sitting in our car.
Well, I just didn't know if they wanted to move the discussion along because we're getting toward the end of the year.
Yeah.
Figure out.
No, we
We'll have to figure out
understand.
how to move it along though.
Yeah, we will.
We'll commit to that.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Catch up.
Sorry you're missing the 90s party.
I think they're outside waiting to finish decorating.
That could be why we're hearing the kids.
Oh.
Yeah,
Hey, that's what we're doing.
yeah. Take care, Paul. Drive safe.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna turn off the recording at this point.